start my video in 3, 2, 1. The motion today is this House will impoverish corruptors. As the statement in OG said, corruptors who have stolen billions or a huge amount of money from our country in order to enrich themselves. So, even the death penalty is not enough to deter the criminals. The most ideal way to create a deterrent is found by impoverishment. Deterrent effect on corruptors must be carried out with a different approach compared to other criminals. This approach is known as the maximum return on assets. There are corruption convicts who can still spend time in prison. Corruption cases fall into the category of crimes from the economic dimension, so the punishment must be also related to this dimension. So the suspect must suffer from their consequence doing wrong. The second point is to provide a deterrent effect on the perpetrators. So this corruptor can feel how a poor people live and how they struggle to feed their own stomach. And even with that, they have to pay taxes which eventually going to the corruptor pockets. Indirectly, providing social sanction in the community where the consequences that are borne apart from paying fines, confiscation of the perpetrators' property and objects greatly affect the surrounding environment. So they are aware that the perpetrators of criminal acts of corruption do not easily evade the law with mere fines. Corruption is an extraordinary crime because it violates the economic rights and social rights of the community. That is why the handling of this problem must be also extraordinary, so that it can provide a deterrent effect for the perpetrators and can fulfill the community's sense of justice. Law enforcement officer, whether investigator, public prosecutors, or a judge, should fully disclose all corruption cases. The reality so far shows that the verdicts against a number of convicts in corruption cases are still far from the community's sense of justice. If the punishment for impoverishing corruptor is a very inhuman, what about the poor people who work only to fill the wallets of corruptors when they themselves have difficulty supporting their families? When compared with developed countries such as China, Indonesia needs to study the corruption eradication system that has been carried out by China, considering that the country has made rapid progress in creating a clean government. The Chinese government is very serious about efforts to eradicate corruption, so that efforts to create a clean government can be achieved. What is particularly noteworthy is that China has at least 5,000 public complaint points, a place where the public can report anything of corruption and fraud. The fight against corruption in China is a long, complicated, and difficult struggle. The practice of corruption occurs in almost all levels of the Chinese bureaucracy. But the Chinese government is not playing games in terms of eradicating corruption in their countries. This is evident that is the result of the corruption perfection in index GPA issued by the Transparency International agent, which states that the higher the index number, the less corruption. Based on the GPA, China has a GPA of 3.3 in 2006, and it was ranked 8th for the Asian region. Meanwhile, Indonesia is in a rather worrying situation, where the GPA is 2.4 and is ranked 111 in the world. Meanwhile, from a survey conducted by Transparency International regarding the ranking of clean corruption in Asian countries, China in 2006 was ranked 8th and Indonesia was ranked 16th. There are no appropriate sanctions for those who harm many people only for their own interests and the satisfaction they want to have, and if only with a sentence of 4 to 5 years, 4 to 5 years in prison, accompanied by a fine, it is possible that they will repeat the same action. Why is the punishment for the corruptor is still low? First, the verdict for corruption at the corruption court is too light. The second is the legal process only ensures the perpetrators of corruption, not the family or relative involved in money laundering cases. The third is punishment is only in the form of imprisonment, not impoverishing the perpetrators of corruption. For my last statement, I have 6 points that I have 6 fatal consequences if the council do not approve this motion. 1. The high price of public service and service. Corruption practices create a high-cost economy that imposes a burden on economic actors. This high-cost economic condition has an impact on the high price of the public service and service, because the price set must be able to cover the losses of economic actors due to large amount of capital committed due to a fraud that leads to corruption. The second is poverty eradication is progressing slowly. Weak coordination and data collection funding institution because of corruption, the problem of poverty itself will eventually make it difficult for the community to get access to employment due to their educational background. Meanwhile, making their own work is often constrained by technical and financial problems. The third is limited access for the poor. Poor people prioritize getting basic materials to live rather than going to school, which is getting worse because of their ignorance. Education, health service, decent housing, information, law, and so on are difficult to access by the poor. Access to decent work because very limited, which in the end the poor do not have jobs and almost life, create a vicious cycle of poverty. The fourth is increased crime rate. Corruption and the quality of and quantity crimes are solely related, because when the corruption increases, the number of crimes will occur will also increase. And on the other hand, when the corruption is successfully reduced, the public trust in law enforcement also increase. The fifth, social solidarity is getting rare. People feel they don't have a clear grip to carry out their daily life. The unconstantly of the future and the increasingly strong course of life make the nature of togetherness and mutual cooperation that has been carried out so far rare. Demoralization. Society is becoming more and more individualistic, only care about himself and his family. Why people do this is understandable, because there is no longer any trust in the government, the system, and the law, or even between the people instead. So in the end, after the fact that has been obtained, I strongly support this government policy, because it is time for the corruptors to be deterred by their action. Because of their deeds, too many people suffer. And impoverishing the corruptors is the best step that must be done first. Thank you.